G'day everyone. Today we're here with Rachel Verstegen from the Libertarian Party. So in the recent Wills federal election, Rachel and I were running against each other, and many other candidates. We won't talk about them. What we will talk about this episode, though, we'll talk about whether or not governments should privatize different things, what happens when government drops the ball, what's going on with modern slavery, if it exists, many other fascinating topics, and some heated debates. Let's go.
I'm not feeling it today. I might be a bit quiet.
Okay. Okay, so Rachel, I'm excited today. Peter, would you say it's accurate to say that in terms of how much the libertarians want to change society, that's something they have in common with the socialists, like that grand sort of vision? But
to a point, we libertarians, and I'm talking from my viewpoint here, we'd like to go back to like how Australia was in the 70s, where there's less government interference. So when I know it's idealistic, I do get that, but we want to create a society. We want to create a society where if a mum wants to stay home with her children, economically she can. But we have progressed since then. We would also like, if women want to work, then we can support them with that endeavour. And look, that's a whole topic, and I work across two places. I'll try and get to the point. I work across two places. I work in childcare 1 day a week, and I work for an advertising agency 2 days a week. And within that, they're very supportive of women.
like taking time off for children.
Taking time off for children and sympathetic to their needs, and they do it really well. And Sarah, who she doesn't use institutional childcare, she just gets her mum and a babysitter to do it for her. So she's managed to figure it out, and I think this model is, yes, it is idealistic, but it can be done. Like in my day, and you're similar age to me, aren't you, Peter?
Peter, did you see much of the 70s, the golden age of libertarian
Yeah,
politics?
I agree. I'm just trying to understand the point you're trying to get to, though. Is it about changing the economic structure that force women to get back into the workforce, or are we trying to deal with the outcome, and how do we then change to allow women to still do what is going on in an economic system that still forces people to have to work dual incomes? So we need to get to the root cause and fix the economic system.
Yep, so yes, and libertarians, in our view and my view, and I'm only 4 years into being
Oh, I see.
libertarian, and I have read.
You haven't got the tattoos just yet, okay.
Oh, they're coming.
No, they
I
brand
do
first
that.
with iron.
No,
They get the coat hanger, they bend it into an L, sear it, the tattoos come in the 5th year.
the flame.
Yes.
You've seen the flame, the liberty flame.
Yeah.
So yes, society has to change significantly for our view to be realised, because our view obviously is we don't need so much government.
What, again, I can't link the nexus between no government and achieving what women will need, what society needs, the economic difference, as opposed to what were the economic conditions that forced households now to need dual income, housing to be unaffordable. They're the issues.
Yes.
So, but how does less government fix and what's the nexus to get to that?
Great, good question. Less government. It's not just less government; it's less rules. So places, housing, and apartments can be built more easily. That doesn't mean lay down misère. Right? People don't want to live in small little shoeboxes, especially with a family.
So without getting to the micro, when we say no rules,
No rules.
No, I'm not saying no rules.
No
I
rules.
pick up less
Less
rules.
rules.
Sorry, I misspoke. Less rules. Will that then apply universally as well? So we can, in business, we can then we're stronger survive kind of thing, right?
Yes.
So, and I'm going to take this then to a very high level. If big banks fail, government, we don't bail them out.
Correct.
Okay.
That's right. So that forces them to be lend responsibly.
Yeah, governance and all the rest.
Correct. And you do with banking, and you do have to have rules. Like, we're not
Which is governance.
governance. You do need governance, but really we want the minimum of governance. And so you've used banking, but from let's look at the housing point of view. There are so many rules when you want to build anything. I live in Clifton Hill. We are so limited to what we can do in Clifton Hill. That's
the heritage protection.
heritage protection. If I want to subdivide my block, I'll have to go through all sorts of hoops. It might delay the building of
But can I bring a point? Let's go back to the 70s. Why
Yeah.
wasn't that an issue?
because we had urban sprawl,
Yeah.
and that's
Again,
what.
again, I just want to keep bringing it back to the difference. Can I say in the 70s though, we did have good governance and government. Then we started privatizing. So to be nostalgic and say, oh, we need to go back to what was in the 70s, we had good government then. Is we started privatizing and giving everything out and absolving ourselves of the governance. Yes.
Okay, we might have to agree to disagree because we
Because that is a situation we have now. Privatized, and there is no governance, and no corruption comes in.
Yes, but there is a lot of privatisation, but there's still a whole lot of rules that have to be followed.
I don't know.
And that's the issue.
Self-regulated, most of them.
Not really, no.
Yes,
There's so
building
many,
industry everywhere.
We will have to agree to disagree because there are so many rules. And I'll give you a great example of housing because that's what we're talking about.
Yep.
So my son's a tradesman. He works for a multi-residential builder,
Okay.
right? Now, he did a job, I think it was in South Moraine, right? The builder bought that land, that job's probably been completed in a couple of years. He bought that land 12 years before the project was complete.
Okay.
It took him 4 years to get the land rezoned. It took another 4 years for all the planning to go through, and then there were other delays. And so they didn't turn a piece of soil for 10 years. Right there, we have a problem. And this is one example.
It's an anecdote. It's not the problem.
It is
but
the
even-
problem.
No, it's not. It's an anecdote.
There's the rules, and then there's like how the government actually conducts business. Like I would say more that there's this incompetent government in place. If they're going to have
Correct.
rules and take 10 years for the process,
Yes.
that's not because
It doesn't
they
mean
can
you
really
need,
check.
you need, like if I've got gangrene here, I'm not going to sever my arm here.
Correct.
So to pick on Owen's point, just because those systems we have now may be problematic, and again, we don't know the facts of that particular anecdote and others.
don't.
And I'm not saying they don't exist and people have these experiences. I know the housing issue now is whacked, but going to Owen's point, it doesn't mean you get rid of what that is the problem. The problem is get the good governance in there. You get the right people in there.
Good governance and smaller government.
Why?
I will drive the point with
You can
smaller
with
government
no facts.
because,
It's just a statement.
okay, the fact is you and I are paying, our taxes are paying
Look,
for
I
that
know
government.
that song. I know that song. It's about effectiveness, right? It's about effectiveness. Effectiveness doesn't mean it had about efficiency. If I get efficiency, cut. Effectiveness is to get the right outcome. So if it takes 300 to get the right outcome, because that's what we want, it'll take 300.
What do you mean?
I'm just using random numbers. If
Yes.
it takes 1 to get the same, that's what it takes because it's based on the outcome you want. So we first have to agree what is the society and the outcome we want. So if it is about like the 70s, as you first said, yes, we want not privatize everything. We want it for the outcome of all equity, right? Et cetera, et cetera. I'm just giving examples
Yep.
about the outcome.
I think privatisation is a good thing.
Well,
I used to be Labor.
no, I understand you do. And that's why I'm
Yeah.
arguing these points, because this is the situation we have now, and you're not happy because we are going to the logical conclusion of absolute corruption, right? So when you say no government, the rules are in place.
Small government.
Small governments. The rules are in place with the rules to benefit those who are getting the privatization, because we bail them out. We do everything. The tax money is now so corrupt that it's going up there.
Correct. And that's why, well,
I
when
do
say
not subscribe
correct,
to that.
No,
I do not subscribe.
But the people, the private people, should never be bailed out, even if they've been contracted to the government to improve things or to
But they do.
go to building
But
sites.
they do, because that's what happens with the corruption that goes on and will proliferate based on what you're advocating.
So we don't actually. Your argument is based on the current government. It's very corrupt.
So back to Owen's point.
Wait,
so it's not about government, it's about effective government.
Hang on. No, there's 2 points here. There's too much government, in my view. There's too much government, and it's
Based
corrupt.
on what? I don't disagree about the corruption. Qualify the size that matters.
Okay. When
no,
you say,
can
what
we-
do you
can we
mean
Because
go
by
you're saying
size?
too much. Too much is a qualification of size.
Well,
Let's use
tell
some
you-
examples, shall we, Rachel?
Yeah,
so,
good.
privatizing some things. So, like Telstra, for instance, that got
Yeah.
privatized. Should the Australian government have a monopoly on telecommunications, or should
Well-
that be a private thing?
Well, that should be private. And
Why?
I think,
Okay.
Why?
I think.
Because
Why?
now we've got the
Because-
multi-channels operationals
because
and we're paying.
private providers, those filthy capitalists, they want to make a profit, and they will try and run Telstra, good example, as efficiently as possible.
Really?
Yes.
Really?
And yeah, you're an old Labor, you're an old lefty.
You see, for instance, I'm thinking of like
How many
Qantas-
companies go bankrupt and create phoenixes? It's like, you think everyone runs it like
Lots.
as a... Come on.
Lots of companies
Hang on,
don't.
so
yeah.
so
But
like
no,
one-
you
one
said
of
it
the-
as a principle.
One of the conditions, I don't know if viewers are familiar, but one of the conditions that, so when Telstra was privatised, they still had a condition where Telstra still had to keep serving remote communities who weren't especially profitable.
Yeah.
And so an argument for keeping it under government control is, we need, this is an essential part of modern life. To be a citizen in Australia, you should have access to, water, electricity, that
Yeah.
sort of thing. And so if we just left it completely in the hands of the free market, they couldn't be bothered providing phone services to these people.
Okay, so in that instance, maybe the government has a responsibility to their taxpayers,
To their citizens, yeah.
to their citizens, to pay for the service for these people in regional remote areas. And you could make a fair case.
Okay. Can I-
Wait, can I just
yeah,
finish?
please.
You could make a fair case for possibly some government intervention. In limited cases like that, it's the same with the ABC, right? I'm fully on board with defunding the ABC, but I could see an argument. Well, maybe we do need some ABC in the regional remote areas, because I can't see how you could do it any other way, especially when you're reporting on floods or bushfires. Okay, let's use some of our taxes to provide the ABC in regional and remote areas. But we don't. Yeah.
No, I don't think we should. You've convinced me.
No more
You've
ABC.
convinced me. No, you've convinced me. I'm now full on capitalist, and that means I don't want no private company being subsidised by our tax funds, right?
Who said it was private company?
No. I'm saying that's me. I'm full capitalist now. I'm subscribed. I'm epiphany. So no company now is getting subsidised. Go for it. Free market. Let's do it.
Yeah.
No government is there just for the bailout stuff and make sure
No,
that the
no
wealth.
bailouts.
No.
No
Not bailouts
bailouts.
of companies. Don't jump what used to happen. I'm saying to help those underprivileged in society.
Yeah.
That's all we're doing now, and basic services.
Well, I would argue that the ABC could have provided
No,
good.
no.
Okay, I'll tell you what used to happen to provide.
No. We're going future now.
Yeah.
This is idealistic. I agree. So no companies now are getting subsidised. So a mining company, that what we do now, they dig up the dirt. They say it cost us $700,000 to dig this up. Oh, we'll give you a check, dollar for dollar, for research and development. They get that right now. Every company.
That's.
What are you talking about? It's fact.
You show me the facts.
That's
Get
and-
the facts.
Sorry,
Research and development. It is rebates. It's a
You-
rebate.
My understanding is the
I
same as
worked at- I
Peter's.
worked
They're
at the ta-
spending.
I worked at the tax office, I know.
Yeah, but they're spending their own money.
Oh, you are.
Yeah, but that.
And they're getting
They're
$1 per
spending their
dollar.
own money.
Yeah, but as Peter says, like if they attribute some of this spending to research and development, then
It's a
get it.
Then they
rebate.
get a tax break.
No, it's not a tax break. It's a rebate. It's $1 for dollar.
But they've spent the money.
Yeah, but like, what? Why should we give them a discount for that?
It's our
They've spent the
resources.
money.
But it's our resources.
They're spending their own money for research and development. The government's not giving them money. This is
It's not costing them anything.
until I see the data. I'm sorry. Until I see the data, if you can show me on your phone,
Well, I guess Peter's.
you didn't think it'd be so
Well,
fine.
but Peter's thing about the research and development, that's just a small thing.
That's- that's right.
There's no denying that these mining companies make a gargantuan amount of money.
Yes.
And, like, shouldn't they pay more tax? I mean, it's our resources.
No, not really.
Why?
No. Why?
So,
Look at
Well,
Qatar.
what would you rather? What would you rather?
no, he
Those-
just said it. He just said it. That is the
Okay,
answer. That is what
they're
I rather.
providing employment.
No, they don't. No, employment in Australia is immaterial. You give me how many people they employ.
I've got no idea.
So therefore, your statement is irrelevant. Up the
It's
table.
not irrelevant.
These
They-
people just, you hook up a few
Yeah.
whales, get an enormous amount of oil,
It's
natural gas.
immaterial. The amount of employment they actually, considering what they take away from us, it's immaterial. Next point.
So tell me,
Next point.
So
Hang on,
tell
Rachel, what
me-
about Qatar? Qatar exports so much natural gas. They make a ton of money. They have no income tax. They have free university.
it's fantastic.
Yeah, like,
Wouldn't you want that here?
Yeah, that'd be great.
But you've just
well,
said
like
no.
our natural gas is on the same scale as
Exactly.
Qatar. I think it might actually be. I think we might export more than Qatar.
Oh, your argument is they pay, the companies pay high taxes.
Yes, exactly.
Correct.
Okay, that is true. I am aware of that. Sorry.
But
I'm
you just said you don't want them to pay tax.
I don't want them to pay more tax because I want them to keep mining here. So
Why?
Why?
Well, we don't get much benefit from
We
it.
don't get anything. What's in it for
Look,
us?
we are, because it
It doesn't.
implies employ.
It doesn't.
We don't do
It's
it.
negligible.
Hang on, if we want
Okay,
employment,
there's
let's double down on the
trucks,
NDIS.
There's couriers. There's
They can do other jobs.
all sorts
We're
of
getting
things.
nothing out of
So
it.
Tell me, if it doesn't employ any people, what are fly-in, fly-out workers doing?
Immaterial. They are
compared to how much money
immaterial.
they
In
make.
your view,
No, what do you mean?
The
Compared to how
billions.
much
We
money
just
they
said the
make?
billions that Qatar have. You're saying that'd be nice, but you know what? Let's call it $500 million
Okay.
in employment, which is not even that.
You tell me how much money does Gina Reinhart make laying Hancock or laying resources? How much tax do they pay?
Minimal.
Not much.
Okay, you tell
you're
me.
fighting-
that. I want to know.
we don't-
figures.
sorry,
I
we
want
don't-
data.
Making your, I am not going to make your argument that is nonsensical. I cannot make your argument for
In
you.
your view.
No.
Sorry, Rachel. Okay,
Yeah,
so moving on.
but
So
let me-
we disagree about. We sort of.
Yeah,
I
we're
don't
off
know.
to a good
I don't know
start.
if we. I don't know if we agreed about Telstra. We
I
definitely
think I'll
disagree
let a
about
glass
mine.
of red wine at this
What
rate.
about something we agree upon?
what?
I should
Nothing.
mention. So, I guess if viewers weren't already familiar, the Libertarian
doing the
Party.
quiz? Oh.
Oh no, well, for those of you who aren't familiar, something that Fusion and me personally agree
We're
with.
cooking your segment.
No, don't worry. So something we agree with that Fusion and the Libertarians agree on is free speech.
Oh, absolutely. Yeah.
And so, actually, so about a year, 2 years ago, I was at a rally organised. I think the Libertarians organised it, did they?
Probably.
This was about the misinformation bill. Yeah.
Oh, yeah, we would have organised that. I
Peter,
don't
are you
know.
a fan of misinformation?
Only when it's not true.
I mean, the alarming thing is who decides. There's so many issues with that. Who decides on what mis and disinformation is?
Oh, the Jews, apparently.
Who?
Well, lately,
Let's that's a whole nother topic. Let's just stick to the point.
No, apparently it's true. That's,
And we can't censor everything that people say because it is targeted to online, right? We,
Oh, that's where it's easiest to censor them, sure.
Correct. We can't censor everything. We can't because there'll be, and like who decides? And I think it was Douglas Murray, his argument is, and not just his argument, I think it's a general argument, the answer to misinformation is freedom of speech, being able to negate the misinformation with a reasoned argument. And I honestly hadn't given it much thought about mis and disinformation until all the COVID lockdowns.
Oh, okay.
And you can argue, I thought it was all a load of nonsense from the start.
Well, COVID was.
Oh, I believe COVID is a proper virus. That's where it ends for me.
Oh yeah,
We're all going to die.
there were means to an
Right.
end, for other political means as well.
And I think during the COVID period, it's like there was a lot of information at the start because I listened to an overseas news service. There was a lot of information at the start, the IFR. So the IFR, infection fatality rate.
Okay.
So if you get COVID,
Oh, will you die?
what are the chances? Now, with the flu, normal flu, it's 1.2. 0.12. Yes, 0.12%.
Oh, I see.
So if you get the flu,
Yeah.
there's
So like
0.12%.
basically 1 in 1,000 people die if they
Correct.
catch the flu.
Yeah, that sort of
That
sounds
seems,
high.
yeah, that seems quite high.
What's the point?
Would it be in 1 million perhaps?
It's not. It's not. It's,
Anyway, so
Anyway, it's low.
This is low.
It's-
Okay.
COVID was maybe it was a bit more than double flu.
Okay.
So it wasn't nothing.
Yeah.
It was something. People were speaking out about it, but they were all censored. They were all censored. People were speaking out about the harm that lockdown would do. Well, that's misinformation. I mean, how can it be misinformation? It's someone else's viewpoint.
Yeah. Yeah.
And I just couldn't, and I'll be honest, I've been anti-vaxxer forever, right? Like I didn't vax my kids. So I am aware of speech being censored, even coming into COVID.
Actually, one of the things I wanted to raise, actually, it was at that rally. I met someone, they had this weird-looking Australian flag. I think it was red. They said it was, I can't remember the backstory, sorry. But we got chatting about that flag, and then also he was telling me about the convoy to Canberra. Viewers might remember it was, so Canberra, the capital, lots of people driving all over Australia. So he was telling me 2 million people attended. For foreign listeners, Australia's population is only 26 million. So, 10% basically of the population going to Canberra. I remarked to that guy, that's an awful lot of people. He assured me that, the campsite was very large. I wonder, can you comment on the fact that this was so suppressed, the reporting about the convoy to Canberra and, its sort of popularity?
Yeah, absolutely. I wasn't there.
Oh, in Canberra? Okay.
No, I wasn't there in Canberra, so I can't speak for that rally. I can speak for the rally in Victoria of one of the anti-vaccine mandates, or I think it may have been against the pandemic bill. Do you remember that?
Oh,
There was a pandemic bill. Anyway, we're protesting in the city. Now, I'm AFL addict, right? I go to MCG a lot, and I've been there when it's full, 100,000 people. And I'm not too bad at guessing the crowd, right?
Yeah.
And I know it's a different situation, but I'm looking at how many people were there and the drone shots and just being there and how many people were filling when we finished. We finished up at Flagstaff Gardens and how many people were there.
This was walking along the streets, the crowd?
Yeah, well, it's hard to get a read when you're walking along the street.
Yeah.
But when we were at the Flagstaff Gardens,
Oh, okay.
you could see. I think it was some people said 400,000.
Oh, wow.
Yeah, I don't think so. Could it be? I think it was more like 250,000, right? The media reported something like 50,000. So that was one. And so that's misinformation, what the mainstream media are reporting.
Well, these metrics, it really affects things, yeah. I saw the other day the Iranian, he wants to be Prince of Iran or something, wants to be installed as a puppet. It's interesting, like when Iran cut the internet access off, this guy was still getting the same number of likes on Instagram. So, you know, it shows that like even if his Instagram followers are
There's nothing new here.
real-
Like always, forever and a day, like major newspapers always had an angle, whether they're supporting one party or a political view. There's nothing new here.
Oh, I'm just saying about like these metrics in terms of how popular it is.
No, yeah, I
That
know,
is-
but
yeah.
the way the media may report on something is because they want the public to think a certain way. It's been going on since forever. You know, even that
But-
point there, like clearly governments and media have always had a relationship, particularly when it comes to, you know, when there's war or something like that. So they would say something to not inflame a situation.
Yeah.
Well, they give it an angle, and
Of course.
in the olden days, you would think. Well, I think, and maybe I'm a bit Pollyanna-ish, I would have liked to think the ABC, for instance, gave a more balanced view, so you can appreciate.
Well, yes and no, but think about who do the ABC staff work for? Who's their boss?
Yeah, okay,
government.
The government.
Yeah,
but
so-
in their charter, sorry, Peter.
Yeah, I get the charter.
In the charter, they're meant to be not biased, right? I know I do get they're funded by the government. In their charter, they're not meant to be biased. Therefore, in the idealistic world, they should be reporting accuracy, right? They should be. Any expert in crowds could have given the right figure for that rally.
Okay, and if they did, again, we're talking about, in my view, immaterial issues, right? So if they reported to the
Well,
news, and again, with all due respect, and they said there's 400,000 people, and even if they said, you know what, I estimate 500,000 people, okay, was it going to generate a whole mass that everyone was going to say, you know, Dan Andrews, we don't care, we're going to break out? I'm saying, no, it didn't, because even that mass didn't aggregate to say, let's do it again and again and again. So there were other misinformation that was going on during the lockdown where governments were passing bills and legislations where, as a more curious and thought-provoked crowd and group, that's what we should have been focusing on. But no, those who were activated and saying it was about the virus and the bug and let's go and protest, instead of looking at what government was actually pushing through.
We were looking at what the government was pushing through. The reason why those crowds were important, and the numbers, I'll have to disagree with you. The reason they were important is to put pressure on some of the crossbench in the upper house
Sure.
not to vote with the government for that pandemic bill, not to vote with the government for, well, the vaccine mandates.
These people need to know.
And they also acted at times as strawmen to allow government to pass other rules that took away our liberties as well.
This is the upper house crossbench.
Yeah, I don't care about those micros. I'm saying the crowds sometimes also acted as those straw men to allow government to pass more draconian rules.
Well, what
for
do you
everything.
mean?
Oh,
Can you
like
explain
these
yourself?
protests
I
are
don't-
acting up.
Yeah,
Let's crack
yeah,
down on them.
correct.
Yeah. Well, same as like the Palestinian protesters. They get used as a scapegoat for now. What's her face? Gillian Siegel, as we were
More
alluding to.
laws about
I saw
our
that.
freedom of expression and stuff. And these pseudo.
This woman, she's not a politician. She's,
She's
voted
AH.
for it.
What is it? She's from the
So
IH.
oh, I'm not sure. Which one? David Saber, was he
IHRC.
So my point was, the point I was going to make again, when you protest, they have to be back to that point about effective, not just about doing it for numbers and so forth. So if you're going to make a protest, do it. Burn something down.
No, I agree with you, Pete. What disappoints
Sometimes you can
me,
be a puppet. I'm not saying you guys will, but you can be a puppet to achieve the outcome that they actually want.
what disappoints me is with those protests. So let's say that big one, there was 250,000 people, right?
Flagstaff, yeah, sure.
Just say, right, for argument's sake, and talking about people, they'll go to the protest. Then what are you doing after the protest? You're going back, you're watching whatever
Yeah.
it is on, and I don't watch TV, I don't watch, I couldn't, it's just of zero interest to me. I watch the AFL.
Oh, yeah.
That makes me happy, bit of escapism.
But yeah, sorry. So the people, they go to the protest. Once they get home, what are they going to do next steps? Yeah.
Yeah, I'm giving myself a pat on the back for going to a protest. Well, like you said, what's that going to achieve? No, you get home and you write to your politicians. I've got a whole folder of letters. Well, it was during lockdowns, but I had written to them prior to that let's face it, there was nothing else to do.
Well, actually, that's one of the reasons we started the podcast. Actually, because like many people are annoyed at the government about something, they dream that life could be better, but these first steps. How do you start making a difference? I think, like you're saying, coming to the protest is a great way to start.
Yes.
Another good way you're saying send letters to the politicians.
Oh, absolutely.
I would say kick them out, but yeah.
And I think that's my frustration is like you're in Fusion Party, I'm in Libertarian, and we struggle to get volunteers, but they'll be sad and cry because Labor doesn't help me, Liberal doesn't help me. That's all good, be sad and cry. Well, you're not doing anything about it. You are complicit in your own demise.
Totally.
Let's face
Oh,
it.
Labor and Liberals, they say that they're listening to these people, yeah.
Oh, no, they're not. They're in it for themselves and they're in it for the power.
No, I agree. I always say you get the government you deserve.
And sadly, Victoria has the government we deserve. And imagine if the people who knew about libertarians or knew about Fusion, even though we have quite idea differences, and that's okay. If more people voted for the smaller parties, like significantly more, then that would pressure the big parties to start having
Well, yeah,
more sensible parties, which are actually good for Australia.
Well, I try to tell people that, if you vote for a minor party, even if they don't get in,
No, she's not into minors.
No, I want to be
Even
the
if-
libertarians. I want us to be major.
yeah. Well, I tell these people, like, even if you don't, even if you vote for a minor party and don't think they're going to win, that it still sends a very strong signal to the government, like, oh shit, we better lift our game if we're losing votes. They aren't to know, like, do these people actually like Fusion or do they just want to protest, for instance? If you vote it as an informal vote, like, it's easy to pass off the idea, like, oh, these people, do they even know what they're doing?
Well,
Yeah.
you saw Albanese was like anti-Greens the whole campaign. He was dancing on their grave, Like his main concern was like not DLNP because they're in bed together. It was like get rid of.
Yeah,
others,
yeah.
Like
And
Oh,
any
yeah,
that's my
politician-
enemy. That's my enemy.
Yeah.
Well, they are my enemy.
I thought it
Irrespective
was-
of that, but for him, that's the enemy, the minor parties, and they passed legislation to even make independents harder to get in. Like they just want.
Oh, yes,
Absolutely,
they
yeah.
have done exactly that. It's collusion.
Yeah.
And that, getting back to that's kind of corruption.
know.
It is corruption.
It
Of the
doesn't pass the
system,
pub test,
yeah.
yeah.
It absolutely doesn't. Which shows they want to
Needed
trench.
Barnaby Joyce.
Hey, Barnaby Joyce is okay. He speaks his mind.
No, he
keep
doesn't.
the
No, he
fucking
doesn't. If he
business.
spoke his mind, he would talk about the water corruption and how much he's benefited from up there. So he doesn't speak his mind. He's as corrupt as fuck. And if he comes here, we'll have it out so he can talk out of Parliament and incriminate himself. But he wouldn't.
Yes, I heard.
But actually, Miss Penny Wong, who created that policy,
Oh, the water policy.
Yeah, she's the one who created it, right? She's the one.
Which water policy are you talking about? The one in the, the upper Mully?
Yes,
or-
yes,
yeah,
that he
yes.
Barnaby's benefited off that, right, in the trust.
The Bowie one.
Yes, and the trust, there's trust, millions of dollars. One person's being jailed. He and the other Liberal,
Angus Taylor.
Angus
wasn't it?
Taylor,
Yeah.
both of them are incriminated in this. But Penny and that won't chase it, of course, because they're both
They're
corrupt.
all
as-
in-
corrupt.
yeah.
But bring Barnaby here and let him incriminate himself.
But this is the thing. If people got more activated in politics, at the minimum, you should be a member. Like, should. I think our
Yeah. Oh well.
a financial member.
Yeah, I should mention. So, members of Fusion, for instance, it's free, and there's a requirement. We need 1,500 members to stay registered as a party to be on the ballot.
Yeah.
Being a member doesn't, you don't have to pledge to vote for us. We would have no way of knowing, anyway. So yeah, it helps parties stay registered. Quite often, it's free. How much is it in the Libertarians?
Well, to be a financial member, it's $80 a year.
Okay.
But you can be an associate member, and again, that's free.
Oh, okay.
So
But
we-
it helps you stay registered. Yeah.
It helps us stay registered. But if you really want, if you want us to put pressure on the government, oh come on, cough up your $80.
Yeah.
Unless, and I know times are tough, right?
Oh,
But they're going to remain tough if you don't cough up your $80 to help parties trying to pressure the majors.
Well, one thing you could do actually, I get all
Yeah,
the
go on.
I get all the parties' emails. I got one from One Nation this morning.
Oh, yes.
Their gimmick is that you can win a hand knitted sweater from Pauline herself.
Oh, hail Pauline. I did
Put
as
that on
well.
eBay and probably get
Good on
some
her.
hick buying it for more.
Good on Pauline.
Well,
I like
I
that.
was hoping I thought it would be like very One Nation
She's
branded.
racist, like, because you're talking
I
about
don't think
a
so.
particular part of Australia
Oh,
that's
I'm not
kind of
sure.
just inbred or something.
I don't think, but
Good on Pauline.
well, it looked like a typical jumper though. I thought it would be like very, very Aussie, like doubling down on like the
No,
koalas and. Okay.
She's very obviously pro-Australia, but
Is
she's
Is
just
she?
doing a...
Is she?
Pauline's okay.
Is she?
I think she's okay.
In what way? In what way is Pauline okay?
She is very pro-Australia and once... Have you
So,
met Pauline?
no. So should we bring back her where she's voted and where the money's gone and what she's voting pro-Australia on everything?
She failed to stand up for freedom of speech. Didn't
Yeah, she
she?
did.
Back at that rally, yeah, the misinformation bill. She approved it. Yeah.
Huge. We were so...
So how is she
One Nation
okay?
supporters,
I'm curious as to why. Apart from her,
That free speech, I cannot...
But she was fine up until then.
Pardon?
She was fine.
but you
before.
stand for that is what you stand for.
Because we libertarians and me, even before I was a libertarian, I'm anti-government, right?
Mm-hmm.
One Nation aren't really anti. They could be. They're not. They do want smaller government, but
I still don't understand the smaller government fascination.
You're never gonna-
I know because you still haven't qualified it. But
how
explain
would
to
you
me.
like me to qualify it?
Again, I can't make a nonsensical argument for you, but I'm saying, how is Pauline good? I'm still waiting for that because she goes against the core of your values.
Okay, I'll get whether you agree with this or not, right? Currently, no, it's fine. Currently, there's a housing crisis.
Okay.
Okay.
How did Canada? And rents are very high.
Okay.
How did Canada fix their housing crisis? They've
I thought their economy is like bottoming out.
but housing has come down.
They
Rental
have
in
rent
caps
Canada?
now in Canada.
No,
Okay.
not rent caps. How have they solved the problem?
They got rid of the Aboriginals.
New
Is this a
Zealand-
Pauline Hanson
New
policy?
Zealand have done the same thing. What's New Zealand done to help them with the housing crisis?
But is it helping who? Helping.
Oh, they brought them to Australia.
Yeah, probably. I thought this was common knowledge. Canada has their I should qualify it. They may not have, well, they have. Canada, left-wing government, they have cut immigration.
Oh, okay.
Oh,
They've cut it.
really?
New Zealand, they've cut
Oh.
it. Because they've got a housing crisis.
Oh, this, I guess.
I was close. I thought get rid of people, but this
That's
is stop them in a different way.
Stop them coming in.
Well, it's worth noting. So HSBC, the
on
bank,
track.
they did some modelling. They showed like as house prices keep inflating, it actually decreases the birth rate. So.
Don't change the tax system in any way or anything.
I know, I'd be changing the tax
Well, so
system.
I guess already the house prices are
But
already
probably would
getting
be
rid of
doing the
people. Yeah.
opposite thing. Well,
Oh, the same thing.
Victorians-
How would you change the tax system?
Oh,
Trickle down economics?
there'd be way less tax. As
To whom?
for everybody. I'm effectively, and I refuse to cry poor, but effectively I am a low income earner, right? But
Sorry,
if I was
compared to Australia, compared to what?
well, in Australia, I
Okay.
am a low income earner.
Okay.
I work,
Who
I
would get the
work
tax
part-time.
cuts? Who would get
Sure.
the tax cuts?
Me.
The low income.
Oh,
Yeah.
everyone, I guess.
$40,000.
No, I'm not arguing, I'm asking, curious.
If you earn $40,000, which is $800 a week, you should not be paying tax.
No,
Come
I
on.
agree. Living wage, 100%. I'm on board.
That's
with living
even
wage.
we agree. Socialists and libertarians, we.
Yeah.
I didn't classify myself as a socialist in any capacity on this.
I don't know that.
Peter's for new viewers. Peter's not a member of a.
But my taxes, like, so let's look at subsidised childcare, right? I could write an
All the
essay
banks.
on it. So let's keep it to the point. Subsidised childcare, and let's not argue the point. It actually hasn't solved the problem, right?
No, individuals have gotten very rich.
No,
So-
wait.
Well, they have.
Solved
Because
the-
what was the problem?
Well, the perceived problem,
Is women going to
was
work?
women couldn't yet correct. Let's get women back to work. That improves the economy. Now the issue is and I work in it. I'm boots on the ground.
The family said
right?
I have to go to work. It wasn't
Wait,
next door for
can
that.
you just shut up for a minute, please?
Yep.
I'm trying to make a point here. So, in women who might be working 3 days a week, as soon as you start earning more, your subsidy goes down.
Oh, I see the welfare trap. Yeah.
So what happens is then they decide, well, this isn't really worth it. We're not going to use childcare because the subsidy goes down. Then you get the stay-at-home mums, like me, like I was once. I'm not picking on them.
Yeah.
They get a high subsidy for childcare because they're on one income. So they get access.
You're saying it's an incentive to get divorced, I guess.
No, one income,
Yeah.
meaning mum and dad.
Sorry, the stay-at-home mum. Oh, sorry, I thought you said single mum. Yeah,
No,
sorry.
stay-at-home
Yeah.
mum. No. I think single mums, bless them, that'd be a really tough gig. And they should be helped. Like, see,
Sorry, I'm
anyway,
so
that's
lost.
another topic. So my point is, the stay-at-home mum, like what I was,
Okay.
we're getting subsidised to send our child to childcare, but we're not off conquering the world and paying taxes. And yet the women who the whole system's broken. I work in it. The women who
So your system's broken.
the system is completely broken, and it's an example of the government all these subsidies. Who's getting wealthy of them?
The privatised childcare
Correct.
centres.
Yes.
Correct.
And well, it shouldn't be privatised.
Correct.
Well,
Wait,
it can
I
be
thought-
privatised.
No, exactly. We agree.
I
No,
thought
we
you just-
don't agree.
It shouldn't be privatised.
It shouldn't be. It can be privatised.
No, it is
shouldn't be
privatised.
Subsidised.
Okay.
But because the private industry can't afford to keep it as a profit.
Yes, then don't have it.
Therefore, it's a social condition that we provide,
Well,
a
I get-
service.
No, who says we should provide?
Hang on, Rachel. What the studies show, for instance, if a kid, before the age of 4 years old, if
Yeah.
they get messed up in any way, they're more likely to become a criminal. They're less likely to go to university. If we can pay for like early intervention for raising citizens, then we get better citizens later. Like, isn't that just a good outcome? For the country?
Okay, I get your point, right?
Mm.
Who says childcare is best for the child?
Well, it's optional.
But who says I want to see the data?
Well, yeah,
No,
sure,
no,
but
see,
it's
it's
optional,
optional.
so who cares?
Some people
Yeah,
like
but
to
you're
have
just saying it's good that
Yeah,
children go to
the
childcare.
Yeah.
children interacting with
Necessarily.
other children is a good outcome too, right?
Well, we're going to have to agree to disagree.
Well, we will, because if it
I work in
happens-
the sector, and like I said, I'm very pro women working. I'm not, and I work in the sector. I lean more towards if we're going to have childcare, the not-for-profit model, right? Or like
Government
the
owned,
churches.
yes,
No,
yes.
not government owned. Charities running it.
But not privatised.
Absolutely.
So,
it should
yeah.
not be privatised. And we've
Subsidised. No subsidised.
seen no subsidy.
Because you can't do it for profit.
like-
You can privatise it.
But they won't do it for profit.
Well, you can have private childcare.
Yeah.
There's no issue there. It should not be government subsidised.
Correct.
Okay.
Because no one
We
will.
agree on
Because
one
no one can run it on a profit. Otherwise, you're going to be serving them
Well, then we
yogurt
won't
from
have
there.
it.
Well, hang on.
Exactly.
So let's say let's say there's a single mother. She's working 2 jobs. She's not earning very much money.
Yep.
Like if she sends her kids to childcare, she'll have even less money. Like if she declares that basically she can't afford childcare,
Yep.
and she has these 2 jobs, like I see a potential solution. Is,
Okay.
childcare subsidies, but
Yeah. Okay. So there's always exceptions, right? Either in that like there's lots that she could do. She could have family look after the child. She could have Nonna up the road look after her child. She could have her sister look after the child. She might be able to have grandma look after the child. So there are lots of potential options for her, right? It shouldn't be the first thing is subsidised childcare. And if she doesn't have those options I outlined, well, you've got to find a way. I know someone who was a single mother
With-
in this position, and she worked it out. She worked it
was
out.
last episode we
I know, but
spoke about
look-
the dead babies on the
Yeah,
streets
yeah,
of Melbourne.
that was like 1870. But the thing is, right, like, I'm not sure what your Libertarian Party is like, but what we're discussing generally is policy and how to get outcomes. And what I'm hearing are anecdotes, responses, and there was this lady.
What
who did
else do
this.
I have? If I don't
Policies.
have anecdotes.
Policies. What are the policies?
Okay, our policy is simple.
Then don't say smaller, less government. It's got to be like,
Okay.
what are the outcomes that this will deliver, and this is how it will get to.
No, we're against all government subsidies for everything.
Brilliant. I agree.
Even,
Even mining exploration.
correct.
Totally.
It should not be subsidised.
Okay, then we agree.
Fair
Yep.
So there was something we agree.
Yeah.
And no government subsidies.
Okay.
And we want to, and we want to allow the filthy capitalists to come in and provide most things.
If they are willing, unsubsidized,
Yes, correct.
Sure.
And in
in competition with government run businesses too, right?
no,
Why?
because
Let-
the taxpayer is paying for those government
If they're run,
Oh,
if they're run effectively.
If the government-run businesses don't get any tax for running them, if it's purely,
They run effectively. We're talking about effectively.
Look how government-run businesses
No,
do
we're
in
talking about.
communism
We're
and
talking
socialism.
about. No,
How
oh,
good is
but
that?
I guess.
do you want to deconstruct that? That's a different conversation.
No.
Sorry,
Communism is government-run businesses.
Oh, but sorry, Peter, your point I gather was like, let's say we have a government-run cafe, we don't use any taxes to run the cafe.
It's run as a
pure-
thing, yeah.
it's purely like
Well,
the
we
cafe
are,
money.
if it's government-run, we're using our taxes to
No,
run it.
well, we could we could like have a
Okay.
wall separated.
Then let's make it forget anecdotal. Like at the moment, government actually build housing as well in the defence.
Yeah, defence
Yeah,
housing.
yeah, defence
So
housing, yeah.
now you can
It
run.
earns a profit.
Yeah, runs profit, right? Now, it can be done like it used to in the past. Let's go back to the 70s times where you can do construction, but they sold it all off, like Lend-Lease got in their pockets and everything else. So let's say in this idealized world, which so far we're agreeing in, we're saying, right, we're going to run a government construction company as well, for profit, which we're doing now, but we're going to expand it to not just for defense, because there's a housing crisis.
Yeah.
And we're going to do it, and we're going to compete with these, as you said, the greedy capitalists. Best man win.
Yeah.
Yeah, we're going to do it for profit too. Why not?
My point is, there will be people who need assistance for housing, right? And back in the day, the charities, church groups, people with humans like to help other humans, right?
Altruistic people, yeah.
There's enough altruistic people to provide the needs
Sorry,
for the community.
you're asking for a society to benefit by default rather than design, and I don't want to be part of that society, and I'll never vote for count your blessings because there should be enough goodwill. No, I want some, as we said before, governance designed to say, this is the society I'd like to live in, not rules, but a framework. And what you're saying is in the nonna down the road, the altruism, no, because there's enough arseholes out there that overrun that.
See, I have a lot more faith in human nature than you do.
Yeah.
I have a lot more faith. So you're much more cynical than
No,
me.
no, I'm not.
No, you are.
I'm
because
not.
I have faith, and you can see it round here. I'll give you an example.
Again, I don't
I
need the
have
anecdotes. I
faith.
don't need the anecdotes. We're talking about policy and realism.
A great anecdotal movie, though. In a previous episode, Rachel, have you seen Les Miserables? I was just thinking, the woman down on her luck and everything, Fontaine. Have you seen the movie?
I haven't seen it.
Oh.
I didn't grow up with TV.
Okay. I highly
And
recommend
so
you view
miss-
it.
I still don't really. I still don't have one. So you sort of miss part of culture. I worked out when I was older. You actually miss
Oh, this was written in 1800s. So.
Ladies, I don't know. I might have seen a play.
Because someone's in the Brunswick musical production, Brunswick Ballroom, for the next 2 weeks.
Oh yeah, they do. They do. Yeah, all the high schools. I mean, my high school back in Sydney, they did Les Miserables. But yeah, it'd be fun to see.
We should do a Brunswick Down production.
Yeah.
Can I give you an example of people effectively being altruistic?
It's rare these days.
And it's right
it's on the
here
decline.
in Brunswick.
Go on.
It is right here in Brunswick. All these Nightingale buildings.
Yeah.
Right?
They have a different business model.
They have a not-for-profit business model because it's a group of architects, designers. They've all got together and they've decided that we want to provide housing at an affordable cost. We will make compromises with parking, but we're going to build it. I love that model.
Well, I bought into one initially and I opted out in the end, but I was going to be on the up the road.
I love this model. It's not for profit. Now I think there's 6 Nightingale buildings.
No, that one as well. It's not Nightingale, but it's
somehow
cheap.
sort of thing.
Yeah.
And apparently, I've never been in one. They're lovely to live in.
Yeah.
So there are people that are willing to use their skills, use their contacts, to create, well, in this case, it's housing and it's not for profit.
And they're not cheap, by the way, but I like the concepts, but then, they're still... they're made well,
And you'll say, well, that's an anecdote. Well, what else have I got? It is an anecdote.
No, I have no issue with anecdotes, but I was saying in context of like the policy of how to achieve something, it can't be just brought down to...
Well, that doesn't need a policy.
Well, I don't mind anecdotes quite as much.
Do you know what I mean? That those people have decided, no government's told them you've got to do this, this and this. They did get dispensation.
So to answer your question, what I mean by that is, like, for instance, when you say one of our main constitutions of our policy or who we are is lesser government.
Yeah.
And I'm like, okay, what does that mean?
Rules.
What does that mean? So qualify it. I asked you, qualify, and then I'm getting these little anecdotes. I'm like, it doesn't wash.
Well, actually, can we step back a bit? So,
yes.
The anecdotes certainly tell a story.
Yes.
But if we can try to see the forest for the trees. So recently I was watching this video about the Peloponnesian Wars, and they were talking about so Plato, when he was criticising what Athens had become, and I guess this is a bit after the war, but he says that when citizens prioritise freedom over duty, demagogues exploit apathy to seize power. And so I guess would you say that, like, is the libertarian cause, would that fit into Plato's description of Athens? Like, is it people prioritising freedom over responsibility, duty?
You would get, I think it's a really good question. You will get people, sadly, who will exploit. So I get back to the inherently good nature of people, so the Pollyanna view. However, of course you will get people that will exploit other people. But in the main, most people, I wouldn't even say most people, there's enough good people in the world that won't exploit people. And it'll be, this is your point, isn't it?
Sort of, but I'm thinking more that, like, so here they were drawing in a comparison to Trump, I believe. Well, I mean, when they talk about demagogues exploiting apathy, if you have a very, like...
But it goes to your question, though. If, let's say we've got 100 people that we're talking about here, and I agree with you, out of those 100 people, I totally agree that 97 are probably innately great people. But if you don't have things in place for the other 3, they will exploit and manipulate and drive, and you'll have, stuff going on, because those 3 could be the worst. And that's where you need the rules, regulations to make sure that there are things in place, because those 3 can infect the rest and sink everything.
And if you have a functioning democratic government, they can control the
Well, democracy needs upkeep.
crazy ones.
There's I was listening
A
to.
But we're talking about people.
functioning
But
democracy.
we need people. We're talking about people who don't want to function within those rules. And it's not. We're not talking about where we're all going to switch on our neurons and just control it. We're talking about people who operate outside of the rules.
Well, now as people operate outside the rules, commit murder, commit fraud,
Again, I'm not.
they're off to jail.
We're not.
Yeah, but many of these crimes are like just made up as crimes by the state. I mean, like slavery doesn't exist anymore because society decided.
Who decided?
Well, yeah, society
Yeah.
decided.
Yes,
Let's not do this
society
anymore.
decided.
No,
Who-
but
who
the
led
government
war
saying don't
against
list.
slavery.
Wilberforce was a big
The
proponent of
Brits.
it. Yeah.
Oh, come on. Now let's not
That
even
was
go
the
there.
British.
William Wilberforce led.
It was.
Before we get to
It's the Brits
yeah
that
right.
led the
Before
war
we
against
get to
slavery.
whitewashing here, and I don't mean that just as a pun. The slavery that goes on now, just with the clothing industry. So I'm saying nothing's really this. My point is how you look at things and who defines what is slavery, etc. Still exists in different forms, right?
That's my point. That
Yeah,
slavery.
exactly. That's what I
does.
mean.
My point is
And
slavery
that's
is a
why I wanted
natural
to stop
phenomenon.
that talk about who stopped the slavery,
Well,
the British who were the main
No, but-
exponents of.
But
Not really. The main beneficiaries was the Kingdom of Congo. But my point is,
So who killed less?
well, no, who got the slaves in the first place? The Kingdom of Congo invaded surrounding kingdoms, kidnapped
no,
these
wait.
people. Where did the people come from?
So now we're blaming the slaves who started
No, they
slavery.
weren't. Hang on, no, they were in Africa, sure, but the Kingdom of Congo, they conquered
No,
the
yeah, I
surrounding
get it.
kingdoms.
I
And
get
sold
it.
those
I get it. So the Kingdom of Congo became a powerful kingdom.
Well, I mean, they might not have invested the money wisely.
No, I have no issue with that. So let's say they became. Your point is they started slavery.
Well, during the transatlantic slave trade,
Yeah.
they were arguably the most evil
Yeah.
player in the
100%.
game.
I don't. I'm not saying I know this issue, and I'm taking on board what you're saying. So these people started slavery, which then we thought that makes sense.
Hang on, we're getting sidetracked. My point is that slavery is a natural phenomenon throughout history, and the
So
reason
let's repeat it.
no. But the reason it doesn't exist now is because we have governments in the West who decided we don't like slavery.
Really, except for the corporation slavery.
Well, exactly.
No, I'm not a lefty. I'm saying the rules.
There's more progress to
the rules that once existed, and then the British said, no, now we're changing the rules. So if you're going to do it, you have to operate within the rules that we've now reset, and that is, say, the corporation rules. And I'm not a lefty. This is reality, and you can paint it any way you like.
I agree that there's still more progress to be made.
No, it's not progress. These kids and everyone else are living modern slavery.
Yeah,
right?
exactly.
Yeah.
Like we should liberate them. Yeah.
So to make a statement to say, oh, but the British ended slavery.
Well, that's just a tangent. Let's.
Yeah, I know, but I'm saying that's a fucking dangerous tangent, man.
Okay. What sort of governments? Look at where slavery's happening and what sort of governments they have.
And why are they there? You really want to go down this path?
No, I'm asking you.
Yes, I'll show
sort
you.
of government-
Yeah,
the
where the
Banana
British
Republics?
touched it, where the British have touched it, they'll be those governments.
Oh,
So if you want to go down that
that's
path,
another whole.
no, you started. I'm saying,
Hang on.
that's the question.
It's the banana republics are places where like people get exploited. Yeah.
Oh, look at China. I think look at the Uyghurs in China who are really
You're saying they're slaves essentially.
they're effectively slaves, and it's enabled by the Chinese government.
Oh, I haven't been keeping up on that issue as much. Sorry.
It's a big topic, but the wages, the Australian government doesn't care about them at all because they want to be friends with the Chinese government.
and Israel and lots of other things. So that can.
But
be
that's
written on.
in slavery tends to happen in non-functioning democracies. Socialism, communism.
I would say
Well,
more.
communism more.
Isn't it more to do with corruption? That's the problem with these countries, isn't it?
With which countries?
Well, the slaves the countries that have lots of slaves.
Well,
Sorry.
arguably
So
slaves.
the population of Britain is composed of Anglo. There's a lot of Indian.
You're talking about the
Pakistani,
slaves from
current.
Britain.
No, they're there because there's a lot of black people in England now. How's that come about?
Well, hang on,
Because
I was
they
saying
get
the
visas.
corruption.
Immigration.
Sorry, just they've immigrated,
Very
right?
organised.
Yeah.
So how have these people had British passports to immigrate there so readily?
What do you mean? No.
I'm asking the question.
Oh, the people, hang on. The immigrants have gone to the UK. I've got no clue what passports they've got. All I know is they're
Oh,
immigrants.
sorry, you're saying many immigrants in Britain are being exploited as slaves. Yeah.
For the past, yeah.
Yeah,
Hence why they were
Well,
colonies.
still, the sex slaves,
Yes.
they exist in Britain, yeah.
Yeah. So the point is, where your point that these countries that basically have slavery is because of their systems of government. The reason why England is so multicultural is because these people have English passports, because England had colonized them, created the slavery and so forth, and immigration issues to allow them to then go back to England.
Well, I don't know if they've all got British passports.
You're missing the point. I think you're
I
missing
think
the
we
point.
got a bit sidetracked.
Yeah.
Can we agree that good governance is the solution to stop slavery? That seems to be something we agree
Yeah,
on.
and what
So,
humanity wants. It isn't.
well, I'm not sure. I want it, but
You want slavery.
no, I want to end
yeah.
slavery. But I'm not sure that the rest of humanity wants that.
Well, I'm saying
As evidenced by
well, even the point we made before, like most people want the best for each other. I agree with that.
Oh no, I mean when push comes to shove, like that quickly falls to.
Well, then your point about
No, most people want what's good for their fellow human.
Yeah.
But getting back to the point, you can get a minority that do not want what's best for their fellow human, and then they can frequently have an outsized power. And the argument to be made in a functioning democracy is that the majority will make sure the people who don't want what's good for their fellow human, they'll be suppressed or pushed out.
The selfish people will be pushed out.
Correct.
Yeah.
Now, that's not that. I get that that's idealistic, right? But there isn't a perfect solution. But that way is better than like a feudal system, for instance. So, in a functioning democracy.
Well, yeah, having different castes of people, yeah, I think is outrageous. Just as well the sirs, what do you call
India
it?
still has the caste system, sadly.
Then what do you call it? The knights and the dames in Australia. Just as well we got rid of that.
Oh,
We still
God.
got people adopted. In Germany,
Don't even get me started at all.
in Germany, I've been told, same as in Australia, people call them, doctor whoever. You get called I would be called engineer Miller in Germany. What's so funny about that?
Don't even, that's such an...
No, but I feel it's un-Australian.
like a little cat.
I mean, people get knighted and damed and all that.
Well, yeah,
all
I
this
think
for
it's just as
doing
long as
their
going
job. I'm like, are you for real? But anyway, that's a sidetrack.
Yeah. Oh, but don't you love in Australia the sense of egalitarianism that even if you do pursue this knowledge or whatever, even if you are I guess noticed by the king,
It's like you could be a coffee in a cafe and be a barista. I won't. And a lawyer and be a barrister barista.
Yeah, I'm sure there are many lawyers who know how to make decent coffee. There must be.
Uni and working. In a
Well,
cafe.
what about the reverse? What if cafe workers knew more about their legal rights? Maybe they wouldn't get exploited quite as much.
Well, it's
Blame the victim. I like that.
well, if they're not happy when they're working, they should actually leave.
True.
They should leave.
Well, actually,
True.
that was one of the things I wanted to bring up actually. So,
yes.
the minimum wage laws is something where I think
Yes.
libertarians might not agree, but I would say
Generally, most libertarians that I've spoken to, yeah, okay, we can have a minimum wage, but it has to be lower than what it currently is.
What?
I actually don't. Is it 20
what.
something?
Sorry,
So they're into
I'll give you the argument.
exploitation. Is that the argument?
I'll give you the
Okay.
argument. So, say a 15-year-old. So, the minimum wage is.
it's different at certain age, isn't it? Yeah. Let's say $20.
21,
Okay.
I think it's $21 or $22, right?
Okay.
The argument for having
A lower wage.
a lower wage, so and we do have, so that's the minimum adult wage, remember?
Okay.
Okay, when you're 15, you can go work at McDonald's for probably $12 an hour.
I did this as a teenager, by the way.
Yeah, so at McDonald's.
Yeah, yeah.
So how much
Oh, I can't remember. I would be 14 and 9 months, I think was the
Okay, okay. So when you first start working, who wants to pay you $22 an hour?
What's the argument though? Why?
If you let me speak, I speak a lot, right? But
Hey,
you
so-
interrupt me.
Go on, Rachel.
Go on.
Okay, so the child's not earning as much, yeah.
This isn't, I'm not doing this sound bites, right? I'm trying to, okay. So when you first start working, you know nothing, right? You're being trained.
But does it take long to become effective?
When my son started working at a cafe in South Yarra, he said, I should be paying Mark. That was his boss.
He should pay the... Oh, good,
Yes.
learning valuable skills. How to make
He's
help.
learning valuable skills. I should be paying him. This is when he first started.
Yeah.
But Mark could see, the person, he could see,
Yeah.
well, this could be a valuable worker, so I will train him up.
Okay.
Right. But he became more skillful, right? But his wage didn't go up because Mark paid minimum wage or whatever the award is, I
Okay.
don't know. And they had to pay the award rate from the start. Albeit a bit lower because I think he was 17 when he started, so he wasn't an adult. So there's some incentive, and it's the same as McDonald's, to hire younger people because we pay them less. Okay, so why there's a disincentive to hire untrained adults and train them up, because the untrained adult,
The children are undercutting the adults, okay.
the children are undercutting adults.
For what
but
job?
Wait, say at McDonald's.
Am I going to go and work at McDonald's? Is this the
Well,
argument?
no, but hang on, to be fair, Peter, in your example, are you going to accept a minimum wage job? Rachel, I would just say, so, okay, your son...
No. So why should those jobs be done at that low wage anyway? Just
No,
because-
don't worry. I am on your
Yeah,
side, Peter.
thank you.
So, okay, so Rachel, your son says, like, his boss is doing him a favour.
Yeah.
That's his
It's
perspective.
Skill set.
All right,
I-
I've got the argument just to stop all this. It's called the Peter Principle, and it's not mine. You can look
Oh,
it
yeah,
up.
I know the one you're talking
Do you know
about,
the
yeah.
Peter Principle is that every person will get promoted to their highest level of incompetence at some point. So
Oh, have you heard this, Rachel?
this is a true thing. It's called the Peter
Yeah, okay.
Principle. So if I'm going for a job interview because I'm assistant manager, and I'm going for the manager's job. So tell us why you're good at this job. I'm good with delegation, blah, blah, blah. I think I can do the manager's job. I haven't done it before, but I think I can do it. I'm going for a job I haven't done. You know what, Peter? We think you can do it. We're going to give you the job. I'm now going for a job I've never done, actually, but they've trusted me. I'm not getting paid a wage now that demonstrates my ability to become fully effective. They're paying me at that level, right? So I now could fail, or this is another stepping stone for me as I learn, and I become a store manager, I own franchise after that, or I just fail, because that could be the job where I get promoted to the highest level of my incompetence. Now, why should a child who's now been deemed as society, able-bodied, cognitively aware, to do a job that we task is appropriate for them? We're not going to say you can go work on a construction site, fly a plane. These are tasks that we say as society, you can flip
They can probably do it, yeah.
flip a burger or whatever. But as you, like the rest of us, become effective, this is the wage you're getting. This whole argument and these anecdotes about, it's going to take that job and that job and that. No, apply it, the right task, the right job, the right pay for the task that are being done.
Do we want as many people employed as possible?
No. Robots should do it. It's demeaning.
Effectiveness. It comes to effectiveness.
Okay, AI is coming, right? That's another topic, right? Do we want as many people employed as possible?
Well, if people want to be engaged in employment, well, yes.
Okay,
I don't.
so the way to get as many people, well,
You sound like the Labor Party. How do we get as many jobs as possible?
Jobs and growth. That'd be Scott Morrison.
Jobs.
No,
Oh, was it?
Scott Morrison was jobs and growth.
Oh,
Now
that's
it's
right.
just jobs.
Yeah.
because there's so much value in having a purpose every day.
Yeah, no,
but-
I've got a purpose. My
Okay.
self-worth is no longer linked to my job, though. Everyone's different.
It's demeaning though, like having some bullshit job to give you purpose in
Yeah.
life. It's,
I'm against that
Okay,
now.
but we've all got to start somewhere.
Well,
I
Pe-
started at
Peter
the
and I-
cookie shop.
We have different life
Working-
goals now, though.
sure.
I'm older than you.
But you know, we have a purpose. Peter and I enjoy
Yeah.
making the podcast. No one pays us to do it.
Yeah. Like everyone's
I'm
self-worth,
earning wheels.
but everyone's self-worth is driven by different things. Like to say that your job, your self-worth is linked to anything like your career, it's not for everyone. Those who are drinking the LinkedIn Kool-Aid, great. Those who don't, no one wants to put it in their lips anymore.
Yeah, well, that's fine. If you don't want to work, then don't expect any money.
No. Again, you can do jobs, but to say that, it has to be full employment or it has to be that, people can do different things.
I've got no argument with that, right? What's your point?
Oh, sorry. Going back to your son learning the barista. Yeah. So I wanted to give a counterpoint. So
yes.
besides working at McDonald's, another of my early jobs, I was dealing casino games at parties, and I could deal blackjack and
Yeah.
poker, but I was learning roulette. But then spinning the ball, it's like a bit harder than it looks. And so I wanted to learn that a bit more. And so my boss offered you can come to the warehouse, you can practice whenever you want, for free.
Yeah.
And he was making it seem as though isn't this great? I'm giving Owen the ability to upskill, but playing is dealing roulette. That's a very precise skill. That's not. I can get a job maybe at the only casino in Sydney afterwards. It's
Or in Melbourne.
And well, I guess same as your son learning to make coffee. That's great, but that's a very particular skill. That's not
Oh, he wasn't learning. He was
but learning something.
waiting.
Sure, but either way, that's a very specific skill. It's not as general as it's not doing him a massive life favor.
Well,
At the end of the day, this job is taking some time that can never be replaced. It's taking his free will.
See, I think I disagree with you there. I think working in the service industry and the skills you get are so valuable that you can, and I'll explain in a minute, you take those skills throughout your life because you're learning people skills. You're learning to interact with people.
Yeah.
You're learning to read people. You've got to remember their coffee. I don't think being a waiter or waitress, I did it.
So why should they get paid less?
At the start, they should get paid
Why?
less.
But hang on,
and
sorry,
then-
Rachel, you're saying it's a valuable life skill to serve.
Yeah, it's a valuable life skill doing that. Working at McDonald's, right? Hasn't done you any harm, has it?
Well, yeah, I mean, sure.
I mean, I don't know you.
No, there were some benefits. So I was working the customer service actually, as opposed to the kitchen, and yeah,
5 years of playing Ronald McDonald in the kids' playpen has had some impact.
And if you're at McDonald's earning, I don't know, $10 an hour, and you're unhappy with that, well, go work somewhere else. Go work.
Red
earn
Rooster,
more
KFC.
money. No, earn more money where your skills are appreciated. If you want to upskill, that's the nature of the world. I work as a,
Yeah.
I work as a
but-
bookkeeper accountant, right?
It is. Hang on. So, yeah, sure. I
It's
did.
not the nature of the world.
I'm an ambitious person, but there was actually one of my colleagues, and so he was. I thought he was very old at the time. He would have been in his 30s. But yeah, so I was puzzled that he was the same rank as me, even though he's in his 30s. And
Yes.
there seemed to be some sort of learning difficulty or something. He didn't seem the sharpest tool in the shed. But me and my friends were asking him, how come you're not a supervisor or anything by now? Oh yeah, he's thought about it, but I don't know, it seems pretty hard. And then he said that he was interested in graphic design, but many people, they weren't going to follow the Peter principle. They wanted to be sure that he actually had some graphic design skills first.
Yep.
But how does he get the experience before he has the and so we actually saw in the paper there was an ad to a graphic design sort of internship. No experience necessary. Join and you'll get the experience here. That's great. We gave him the clipping. A week or two later, oh hey Joseph, what happened? The graphic design thing. Oh, I lost the ad.
Yeah, well, see, he's complicit in his own. He's getting paid.
Well,
Can
but
be too late with this.
These people, they're you can't imagine him like putting his foot down. I demand to be paid more. Isn't it like heartbreaking that the government needs to step in for some of these people, doesn't it?
Well, I think
disagree with that.
it's kind of
People
off
have-
topic. We're going to lose our satellite, I think. So.
If it's what? Because I talk too much.
It's almost 4 o'clock.
Wait. What's the time?
Oh, is this, let's-
Oh, I said I've got something on Facebook Marketplace, and I'm
Well,
not-
on a brighter note,
Anyway.
let's get so we like to play a bit of a game on each of the podcasts.
Ah, yes.
We have a political quote. We'll guess who said it. We'll
I
chat
said
about it.
Play-Doh outside of Athens.
yes.
It's I was going to do. Well, we had a Plato quote already, but yeah. So tell me if you know this one, Rachel, Peter. Let me issue and control a nation's money, and I care not who writes the laws.
Would you please say that again? I'm not very intellectual.
Yeah, all good,
Just get yeah.
Let me issue and control a nation's money, and I care not who writes the laws. So this was written this was written by someone in a Western nation.
Sounds like Aristotle and Nasser's kind of comment.
I'll narrow it down to Europe in the 1700s or 1800s.
Oh, who wrote it?
Yeah, and also, how much do we think it's true? It sounds very oligarchical, wouldn't you say?
I don't know.
It was Mayer Amschel Rothschild.
Oh, okay.
They're the first of the finance by Rothschilds. Yeah.
Best I never said that.
I was surprised though. I thought this family was from like the 1500s or something. This guy, this was like 1700s or so, just before the French Revolution. That was one of the places where he made the most money. But it's puzzling, isn't it, that now they're like, especially the like right-wing parties, they warn plenty of people about the IMF or the global finance institutions. It's curious to hear that it hasn't been around for that long.
What hasn't been written?
Oh, like the sort of global finance.
They're all new things.
Yeah.
They're all like this. Well, just started last century, and it's
But it
Or
is,
maybe some of them started the end of the 1800s, I think.
yeah. I wonder. Are you worried about the global financiers as well?
I am, but I'm also concerned that, yes, that it shouldn't be all centralised. I'm a libertarian. Like, we're not, it shouldn't be controlled.
People
by
having their
some-
own identities. Yeah.
It shouldn't be, more nationalistic like that. And we shouldn't be answered to, those UN, WEF, WHO, all those organs.
On that note, I think we might get cancelled. We better cut off the stream.
Oh.
No, that's, Rachel, it's been great having you.
Really?
Rachel,
it's
Rachel,
I think it has.
Rachel Verstegen from the Libertarian Party. Thanks, Peter, again.
Okay.
As usual.
Well, I just wanted to make my party
sorry.
happy.
Oh, that's fine. Yeah.
And just-
You don't
Tell
think-
us what they think.
You don't think they would be happy?
Who knows, really?
Bring them back. Bring them over.
I'm happy to do it because I don't feel
Yeah.
like I'm necessarily a skilled debater. And I think my history is lucky.
Oh,
But I'm happy to get things going.
I like hearing your honest opinions and anecdotes, even though.
Do you want to do a
I can't help it.
Okay, bye, everyone. Okay.